What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2 days away from their first regular season matchup of the 2023 season as they host the San Francisco 49ers with plenty of anticipation, plenty keys to the game, plenty of superstars that will be on the field at Acrisure Stadium this Sunday at 1 o'clock. We're going to dive into everything and more. But first, it is I want to say beautiful, but it is a warm and gross week here in the Berg. Should calm down by Sunday, but how you feeling, my friend?
I feel really good. I can't even feel the humidity today. I'm so excited. We were talking about it before we got on, but like we're recording this on Thursday night. I could not be more excited for this Chiefs Lions game. Yeah. It feels like, I felt this way last week when like college football was starting to come back, but and then again like I guess it was last Saturday when like the first real games are happening. But like you just sit there and like I get up pretty early, but I just sit there in the morning and I feel like I'm just twiddling my thumbs until kickoff actually comes. So yeah, it's been a bit of an extended wait, but I'm really excited.
No, I 100% agree. I was saying before we got on here, I keep forgetting, like, it keeps like ramping up, and I'm like, oh yeah, football, and then I'm like, oh, what do I do today? Oh, football. Yeah, it's actually on my to-do list now, so that I do not forget it for the rest of the night. But it feels so good to just, like you said, last week was great, especially with, I think the Colorado hype kind of like gave it a little bit of some like NFL feel, you know what I mean? A little like, oh, this first week of college football is even more exciting. But this is it, man. We got, for the next 17 weeks of our lives, 18 weeks, we have to go sit in front of a screen and watch a football game, or go to a football game and watch a football game. And there is nothing in the world that is better than that. The Pittsburgh Steelers do host the San Francisco 49ers, which is a huge challenge. I think at this point, the hype around the Pittsburgh Steelers is huge, but at the same time, people may be forgetting, I don't want to say overlooking, but forgetting that the San Francisco 49ers were possibly a quarterback away from playing in the Super Bowl last year. This team comes off a season where they are the best defense in the NFL. Brock Purdy returns for year 2 after going 8-0 as a starter last season. And Kyle Shanahan is Kyle Shanahan on top of Deebo Samuels and Christian McCaffrey. I asked a lot of people in the locker room today, actually, hey, is there any other team in the NFL where your running back could play wide receiver and your wide receiver could play running back? And surprisingly enough, people had names. Alvin Kamara was up there. Cordell Patterson was up there, but nobody could come up with 2. It's just the San Francisco 49ers. They will bring a ton to the table for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the biggest name, the biggest storyline that we have followed all week is Nick Bosa, who returns to the field, signs a mega deal. 5 years, $170 million. I believe it's $122.5 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, but he has not been with the team all offseason. We dove into it pretty in-depth on Wednesday about what the expectation should be for him, but have they changed? He returns. It is now solidified. He will be on the game, or on the field at the game on Sunday. 2 days of practice. What are your expectations for Nick Bosa here?
Well, pretty high. So we did dive into it a little bit earlier in the week, but for a defensive end, I think this is completely different as opposed to, if it was a quarterback or even a wide receiver or someone else on the defense, like a middle linebacker or a free safety or something like that. Like, it's a little easier for him to fit in and just see ball, get ball, than it is for a guy like Fred Warner to have to, call some defenses or anything like that, or a free safety to have to make checks in the secondary. It's a little different. There's still some mental prep that has to go into it, but quite honestly, I feel like Joey Bosa is going to get on a plane out to Pittsburgh, watch a ton of film on there. Yeah. He's going to chat with his position coaches, with the defensive coordinator, anything that he needs to really know. But for the most part, he, I think, has one job, and that's to make Kenny Pickett's life hell. So, and I expect that's all they'll kind of force him to do, quite honestly. So Bosa's experienced enough of a player to, I guess, not be surprised by things and to do his job well, no matter, when he's coming in. I think the biggest thing is conditioning, but it seems like I did see Kyle Shanahan say like that's not really a concern for them either.
So TJ Watt actually talked to Jim Wexell of 247 Sports. He kind of touched on exactly what you just said. He was talking about Bosa, and he said, quote, definitely wasn't easy, discussing his return to the field in 2021 where he practiced. He signed the deal on Friday afternoon, was on the field on Sunday afternoon. He said definitely wasn't easy, but you're going to have fresh legs. Difficult for game plan, but it's pretty much just get outside and rush as hard and as fast as you can. He'll definitely be fresh, but I think it's the following weeks, soft tissue wise, that's the challenge. TJ did deal with some hamstring and some groin stuff during that season, but ultimately went on to win Defensive Player of the Year and tied, probably in a lot of Steelers fans' eyes, broke the single season sack record. But Bosa comes in here week one, and TJ had 2 sacks and I believe a forced fumble in week one against the Bills that season. So the expectations should be high. But I agree with you. I look at it the same way. Like, I look at Bosa as the reigning Defensive Player of the Year who plays edge rusher, which means that his job every single down is go get the quarterback, see ball, get ball. And it's just not mentally that challenging to say, oh, okay, this is what I have to do. On top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers have some questions with their left and right tackle in Chooks and in Dan Moore Jr. So it's not like he's stepping in here. And if it was reversed and it was a guy like Alex Highsmith, then you're talking, oh, well, he's got to go up against Trent Williams. Like, no, Nick Bosa's got to go up against Chooks Okorafor and Dan Moore Jr., who I do have hopes for, but not, superstar level hopes. Like, I expect Nick Bosa to win. I don't want to say a good chunk, but I do expect him to win a decent amount of those reps against either of those two, especially if he has fresh legs. I don't think it hinders what he's capable of doing, but I do at the same time think that a 4-quarter game, if this is as big of a dogfight as everybody expects it to be, at some point those fresh legs are going to say, man, I have not played a football game in 6 months, 7 months. I haven't practiced in 6-7 months. I haven't been hit like this in 6-7 months. You're going to feel it a little bit. I'm not saying he doesn't play a whole game and he isn't able to finish. I'm just saying that the reps might be a little lower than we anticipate.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you just wonder, what does their depth look like?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to rotate in enough guys to, I guess, those guys won't make the same impact as Joey Bosa, but can they be, passable while
Yes.
Bosa, kind of gets his breath whenever he needs it? And that's just a big opportunity for the Steelers. Like, you have to hit on, it's like, it's like in basketball when, like, you're playing LeBron or whatever and he goes to the bench. It's like,
Yep.
you have to take advantage of those minutes. You have to win those minutes, those snaps, whatever it is, because you're not going to get that many opportunities, and you're not going to have that big of an advantage, especially when Bosa comes back in. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's all about, I think you're right. I think those opportunities will come where Bosa says, I got to take a blow, like, just, get his legs back underneath him. And those will be crucial downs for the Steelers,
Yeah, I agree. I still think that Bosa's Bosa, but just like you said, those downs, that's when it's like, okay, let's take advantage. And that goes to Matt Canada, and we'll dive into the offense in a little while, but it's a big, can the OC recognize and make those plays? And I think that'll be a huge challenge. Outside of Nick Bosa, this team is loaded with superstars. I mean, it is. We just talked about Deebo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey can do it all. Brock Purdy is a name to watch. Brandon Ayuk is a name that nobody even brings up. And then Fred Warner seems to be lost there in the middle as well, on top of Javon Hargrave, who just signed the biggest deal of any defensive tackle in the NFL. Don't they currently, I believe the San Francisco 49ers currently have the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, the highest paid running back, the highest paid edge rusher, and I believe the highest paid inside linebacker and the highest paid defensive tackle. Oh, and I'm almost positive the highest paid left tackle in Trent Williams as well. So shows you what you could do when your quarterback's making $895,000 a season. But outside of Nick Bosa, who is your biggest threat to the Steelers on the 49ers roster?
Yeah, I think I'm going with Deebo Samuel. I just think he's going to get some pretty advantageous matchups. We talked during training camp about, beginning of training camp, we were real concerned about the inside linebackers and, would they be able to cover in space? How much are they going to be able to keep up with those guys? Our team's going to be able to exploit them. We felt better about it at the end of training camp, but this is still a pretty bad matchup for guys like Cole Holcomb or Landon Roberts. And I think even if you try to put someone like Chandon Sullivan or Elijah Riley, a slot or a nickel on Deebo Samuel, I think he's going to have somewhat of a day. So I think the potential for Deebo to have a really big day against the Steelers is high just because of the matchups, and I think the Steelers are still going to be figuring out one or two things with this defense. Like they haven't been tested a whole lot like throughout this preseason. Haven't gotten a ton of game action. As a contiguous like first team defense. So I think especially early on, Deebo could. I don't want to say be a game wrecker because I don't know how many big plays they are going to be able to hit on just because the talent level is so high for the Steelers. But he's someone to watch, and I think, like I said, the probability that he comes up with some big plays and some big moments are pretty high.
Yeah, I agree. I think Deebo Samuels is a monster. I actually think he's like kind of overlooked. Like I felt like last year he had a bit of a down year, but he only played 13 games. He had 632 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air, and then only 232 yards on the ground. But he's still Deebo Samuels, and the 49ers as a whole were dealing with so much offensively last season, and the quarterback changes and the injuries and the evolution of the offense as Christian McCaffrey came over. There's just so much going on. I still think Deebo is an absolute monster, so I agree with you. I'm just like you said, nervous about how the Steelers could handle that. Like, who do you put on him? If he's lined up on the outside, okay, cool. You have Patrick Peterson, you have Levi Wallace, and those two have worried me, and I've expressed that. Not so much Levi Wallace, but Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter Jr. Those two have worried me, and I've expressed that. But on the inside, can you put Elijah Riley? Can you put Chandon Sullivan? Can you put Keanu Neal on Deebo Samuels and say, okay, this will be fine? And if there's some possibility that he ends up in the hands of Quan Alexander or Cole Holcomb, like how deadly and how dangerous is that? It's that's most certainly a name to watch. Deebo, he's probably outside of McCaffrey the biggest name that the Steelers talked about all week long. Was just like, this guy can do everything. He's just like such a dual threat guy that the Steelers have to worry about him. And I think that it's obviously warranted. A guy who could, just like you said, like in San Francisco's offense, it's weird because it's a lot of catch and go. Like last year they led the league in yards after catch, and it's a lot of get the ball in the playmakers' hands and allow them to do what they do best. And Deebo Samuels is possibly the best at doing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think Brock Purdy's going to be under a ton of pressure all day. He's going to be wanting to get that ball out quick. And, other than McCaffrey, who I think, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball very well, period, against the Steelers. So he's going to be trying to get that ball out quick. McCaffrey's going to be a big target, but I also think Samuel is just, most of the eyes are going to be on McCaffrey. And I think, like you said, Deebo's going to go a little bit underlooked and a little underrated, and he can really take advantage of that in a major way.
Yeah, I agree. Mine is probably a bit of a sleeper. I want to say not a guy that is highlighted in the package of all these superstars. He's next to an all-pro in, I'm never going to get this name right, but it's like Tula Noah Hufanga. And I apologize because I definitely said that wrong, but that's the guy that everybody's eyes will be on. That's the guy that the Pittsburgh Steelers are scouting and using during practice with the orange jerseys. But Tashaun Gipson is a name that has been around the NFL and has made some noise, and I think is a guy that could change the course of this game, because I expect it to be a dogfight. I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to be neck and neck this entire game, and simple things like interceptions and turnovers and forced fumbles and all of that, sacks, third down inabilities, all of those things to be the deciding factor in whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers win this game. Tashaun Gipson is the safety next to the guy that everybody will be paying attention to, which means that he will be getting plenty of looks. He's got 32 career interceptions, including 5 last season for the 49ers. This guy is a ball hawk. He is so undervalued and has been undervalued throughout his career. Like he's got, I believe it's 1, 2, 3 seasons. He's been in the league, I think, 7, 9, 10, 11 years. He's got 3 seasons where he's only got 1 interception. He's got no seasons where he has less than 1 interception. Every other year are multiple interception years, including stuff like 5, 6, 4, 3, 5. Like the guy puts up numbers. He's a ball hawk. He's a guy that is going to be dangerous, and he's going to get targeted because of the names in that secondary. And I think that if he comes up with 1 or 2 of them, the Steelers are in a lot of trouble. Do I think that he does? I don't think that's a guarantee by no means. I have a lot of faith in Kenny Pickett, but it is most certainly a name that's going to float under the radar that I think could change this game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I also think possessions are going to be somewhat limited in this game. Like
Yes.
neither team's going to be taking a ton of shots deep and taking a ton of risks, quite honestly. So if you do, don't overlook a guy who has some talent and is a ball hawk and can go up and get that ball. And just if you give a possession away, it could be really costly. All turnovers are bad, but I think in this game, especially when both teams are really good defensively and just not going to give you much of an inch, like you can't be casual with these deep shots that they have been successful with it. The Steelers at least have, from what we've seen of this iteration of this team, albeit the preseason, but it's looked real easy, and you don't want to get lulled into like a false sense of security about what you're capable of, especially against a secondary that's this good.
Exactly. And if it all comes down to it, and it's about can Minka come up with an interception, I have a lot of faith in that. Can TJ Watt force a fumble? I got a lot of faith in that. Can Alex Highsmith make a play? I got a lot of faith in that. But if nobody's able to do that, it's going to come down to, can Kenny Pickett and that offense just not give the defense an opportunity to win the game? And Kenny Pickett is smart enough that he will not throw at an all-pro. He will not throw at Tre'Davious Ward. He won't go to Nick Bosa's side when he's trying to escape the pocket. Like Kenny Pickett's that smart. The guy that he will unfortunately be forced into challenging will be a name like Gibson. And it's a guy that could change this game. Do I expect him to? No, but he's a name that he's certainly a name to watch. What's up, guys? I have super exciting news to share with you. We have merchandise from t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and hoodies, and plenty of designs from Pickens to Pickett, Muth, Bleed Black and Gold, and of course, all of your All Steelers talk gear, all available at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the store tab at our YouTube page. We cannot thank you guys enough. We would not be here without each and every one of you, and it feels awesome to be able to represent the AST brand and to spread that representation out to all of Steelers Nation. We know that you guys and us, we are one, and this has been one hell of a ride. Again, we cannot thank you guys enough. Check out everything at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the YouTube page, or the store tab, on our YouTube page to get all your AST gear and whatever t-shirts, sweatshirts, shorts, nutties, coffee mugs that you're thinking. Again, thank you guys. All right, let's flip sides here. Go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously the team everybody cares about, the team who, at least right now, I feel very good about in week 1. We just talked about the 49ers game changers. Let's talk about the Steelers. Who is your biggest X factor, your game changer for the Pittsburgh Steelers against the 49ers in week 1?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Didn't
see that one
you
coming.
didn't see that one coming at all.
No.
I originally wrote down in my notes, I wrote down Darnell Washington, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought about Allen Robinson. I just thought about how much attention is going to be paid to, first of all, the running game, Najee and Jalen, both those guys, and then also George and Deontay, and even Pat. You could throw Pat in there too. Who's going to be covering Allen Robinson? Like their second best safety, It's I think he's going to have a real chance to eat. And this could be a theme throughout the entire season, but I think particularly in the red zone when you are trying to identify who the Steelers' biggest threats are, you're going to look to the running game first. Then you're probably looking to George Pickens. Then you're probably looking to Pat Freiermuth. Like Allen Robinson, who I think had a great camp, and I think still he looks a lot more spry than I think his age might like lead you to believe, and that
Yeah.
injury history might lead you to believe. But he's dangerous. He's really dangerous, and he might not have the biggest year statistically. In fact, he probably almost certainly won't. But I think he has a chance to be a real X factor all season, and in big moments be a guy who makes a difference. Can lift this team from 9-8 or whatever to 12-5. It would be like he could be. Yeah. Just make sure my math right, but he can really elevate this team because of how he separates them in big moments and makes them better in big moments, because he is just one more very, very capable threat, and I think he's going to show that in this first game.
That's that I did not see that coming at all, but I like that a lot. I think Allen Robinson is a dude that, just like you said, impressed all summer long. Like there literally were no moments where we got on a podcast or wrote a story and we're like, Allen Robinson had a bad day. Like there were days where he was quiet, but there were never bad days for Allen Robinson. And every time he did something, it impressed us. That's a good one, because I agree with you. Like, it's just like the 49ers. You got to defend George Pickens. You know for a fact that the 49ers practice squad has been wearing a George Pickens jersey. That they've been wearing a Deontay Johnson jersey and a Najee Harris jersey and a Pat Freiermuth jersey. I got a hard time believing that anybody's sitting around rocking a number 11 jersey in San Francisco this week to make sure that they are prepared for Allen Robinson. And he's a dude that, just like you said, like he could be a game changer. You get into the red zone, you got a lot of guys to defend. You want to know who you're probably not going to think of, who's probably their best red zone threat? Allen Robinson. That's a really good one. I think Allen Robinson could be a guy looking for a big game. And a big game might just be like 3 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. But that 3 catch, 50 yards, and a touchdown stat line might, just like you said, it might win you a football game. And it might win you a couple of games this year. And I like that one. I like that one a ton, actually. Mine is Jaylen Warren. Mine is the game changer here, Jaylen Warren. Look, I think that Najee Harris is a Najee Harris, and I expect Najee to do what Najee does. But I also think that running against San Francisco is going to be extremely difficult. And I think that if you're going to beat San Francisco's run defense, it's not going to be with Najee Harris. Najee Harris is going to set you up, and he's going to do his thing, but it's going to be the 1-2 punch that we saw in Atlanta. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be Najee Harris able to get 4 or 5 yards of carry, which I get it. Some fans are still, that's a huge expectation to have. It's Najee Harris ground and pounding it. You know what I mean? Wearing down, getting guys, moving guys into the box, that kind of thing. And then it's Jaylen Warren bursting a 20-yard run, or Jaylen Warren catching a pass for 20 yards. I also think that Jaylen Warren being able to successfully run the football will open up the play action enough to actually make some noise in the pass game when it comes to the deep ball and it comes to guys like George and Deontay getting open downfield a little bit more, and guys like Allen Robinson and Pat Freiermuth. But you need a running back that the defense has to worry about for more than 4 yards. And San Francisco is going to have to worry about Jaylen Warren if he bursts up in 1 or 2 runs. And if he does, I think that opens up the entire offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point too. Like I could absolutely see a scenario where, not get lulled to sleep, but Najee just is giving him 4 or 5 yards every carry, and then all of a sudden here comes Jaylen Warren with a new kind of speed. You're not paying, you just see a running back there. You don't really notice it's Jaylen, and then all of a sudden he breaks through the line and he's 5 yards past you, running for 25 yards. Like that could absolutely happen. Another guy who I think just going underrated and that teams won't have to worry about. I also think he's a threat out of the backfield too, in a way that Najee isn't exactly. So, he just adds another dimension, gives them a whole nother part of the field to cover with, and just because of his speed, like it just expands the kind of real estate that that San Francisco will have to worry about, and keeps guys fresh, and all of that stuff. All of that adds up to Jaylen Warren could make a big play in this game. Like it, I don't know if he'll run for a 60-yard touchdown, but
No, yeah.
he'll like he did against Buffalo. But that drive against Atlanta that you referenced is, I think, a dream scenario for the Steelers, where
Yes.
like Najee sets him up, gets him to the goal line, and then all of a sudden you got fresh legs in Jaylen that can get around the edge and then power himself into the end zone against a couple of defenders.
Yep, exactly. And if you got that 1-2 punch that they talked about all offseason, all summer, that's all we heard. Well, we're going to have the 1-2 punch. Jalen's the number 2. Okay, cool. In this game, the San Francisco 49ers have their front seven is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like I'm sorry, but Najee Harris is not bursting a 30-yard run up the middle. It's just not happening. But Jaylen Warren could burst a 20-yard run, 25-yard run to the side, if it's the side opposite of Nick Bosa, most likely. And that changes a whole ton of what you're capable of doing and how you could disguise your offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll give you another one just because this guy I wanted to mention. Don't think I'm less convinced that he has a big game just because I don't think there's a challenge as difficult as this one. That's Alex Highsmith. I still think Trent Williams is the best tackle in the NFL. I mean, possibly the greatest left tackle of all time. That's how good he is. San Francisco, just like diving into a little bit, and like, my juice isn't going where I watch a lot of Steelers film, but my film for everybody else is still, I got a lot going on. But what I picked up on is that the way that the San Francisco 49ers go about their offense and their offensive line specifically is the right tackle is always there's always a double team on the right side. So TJ Watt is most likely going to be double teamed a lot. But they just let Trent Williams go. They're just like, yeah, he's got it. No big, like it's literally all the time. I didn't come across a single double team, no matter who he was facing, where the San Francisco 49ers gave him any help, and he handled everybody. And I expect that to happen. I expect them to look at Alex Highsmith and be like, I do not care. He's not going to get past Trent Williams. I think that is key because if you're able to disrupt him and disrupt that offensive line from the left side, I mean, they have to redo it. They have to rethink everything that they do on offense. And I think that changes so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to have to, they're going to have to overload one side of the line to prevent against TJ and just kind of take what you can against Alex, right? Like, which doesn't sound like a great strategy, but I don't know what else you do besides leave 2 running backs in on every set and just have them chipping and blocking and helping out on both Alex and TJ. Like, you have to allocate your resources somewhere, and Alex is going to get overlooked, and he's going to he gets at least 1 sack in this game, if not 2.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
If I could, I don't know if you can bet on that, but if I could, I would.
Yeah, I don't know. We typically find everything that we could bet on, so
yeah,
we'll figure that one out by Sunday, no doubt. But I like that. I like that prediction a lot. All right. Next thing I want to talk about, last thing I want to talk about. No, not the last thing. We got to get to picks. Man, it's football season. All right, next thing I want to talk about, Steelers' biggest key to a victory. Obviously, we talked about the game changers. We talked about the X factors and the guys that they have to ignore or avoid on San Francisco's side of the football. When it comes to their biggest key to victory, what do you see for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, I see it's just staying on schedule on offense, possessing the ball and not giving it away real easily, not giving San Francisco many opportunities to try to break through the Steelers. I think that's the one that was the biggest concern about I guess not the biggest concern about the offense, but it was a residual effect of the offense not being very good last year, was that the defense was on the field for so many plays. They were just on the field constantly. And, you're hoping that in addition to scoring more points, you can also save the defense a little bit and allow them to be that elite group that we're going to think they are by keeping them a little bit more fresh. So just stay ahead of the sticks. Don't put this game in Kenny Pickett's hands, quite honestly. Like, I think he's going to have a good year, but he's not going to be the type of quarterback that I think can, even in your most optimistic projections about what Kenny can be this year, he's not going to carry you against the number one defense in the NFL. I just don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's possible. So give him third downs that are easy to manage. Give him second downs that are easy to manage. Just stay ahead of schedule with the run game. Don't commit a ton of penalties that set you back in really stupid ways. Don't have drops. I think that's the biggest key.
Yeah, I agree. I like that one a lot. I think that you're spot on, where the Steelers cannot go into this season with the same results that they had last season. It's been 2 years of the defense dealing with 3-and-outs and short yardage situations and just being exhausted by the end of games. I mean, how many games in a row did we go last year where after a game or during the week we had to ask Cam Hayward or TJ Watt or Larry O, like, how tired are you? How difficult is it to know that you really only get 3 plays before you're back out there? And, they constantly talked about how exhausting it was. So that is huge. I'm going to add to that. My biggest key for them is to win the turnover game, because you can't throw turnovers, or you can't throw interceptions. You can't fumble the football. That just cannot happen. But if you're the defense, you have to come up with something. You know what I mean? You cannot. Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. And, my vibe out of the locker room this week is that the Steelers are not really looking at Brock Purdy as a whole ton, but they do look at Kyle Shanahan's offense as one that always produces. It is even if they don't have the best quarterback, they have the system and the players around him that they are going to be successful. So in order to stop that, in order to stop the dogfight at the end, and in order to be the team that you want to be, the team that there's, 45 seconds left on the clock or something, and you're on defense, that's what you want. You don't want to start the season with Kenny Pickett down 7, with a minute and a half left. And I'm not saying that Kenny isn't going to go win that, because chances are, from what we've seen, he is going to go win that. But you want to be on the other side of that. You want to control your defense and set yourself up to say, okay, come on, Brock Purdy, be as good as you believe that you are, and everybody else wants to believe that you are, and go win this football game. And I think that the way to do that is you win the turnover battle. You come up with an interception, you force a fumble. I don't think you could rattle Brock Purdy, but I think you could come up with some mistakes that he makes, and I think that he's going to make some mistakes, and he's been away from football for a long time. So I would say that. I'd say you win the turnover game. I think you win this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the confidence is actually like a big thing for Brock Purdy in this game. Like, if you can you can do this early, like you talked about doing it late, but I think if you can sow it a little bit early, like if you can rattle him a little bit early, you can really knock him off his game. You can, professionals don't get shaken that easily, but
yeah,
you can start to make them worry a little bit. If you especially if you protect the ball and then you take it away even once, like you instill a lot of, not doubt, but you make them nervous, you make them sweat a little bit, and you say, you prove that our young quarterback, our young guy who's controlling the game is better than your young guy who's controlling the game. And like you said, I think that also just, they don't think of Brock Purdy as much right now, maybe not right now. And
no.
if they can prove that, especially early on, they'll just start flying around and start making plays and start really showing what they believe and proving what they believe about Brock Purdy.
Yeah, which is it's going to be fun, man. I think the storyline of Kenny Pickett, first quarterback taken in the 2022 NFL draft, versus Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant of the 2022 NFL draft, is just like a little overlooked. Yeah. And I think it's a really good opportunity for Kenny Pickett to be like, yeah, shut up, like, stop. I'm the guy. Yeah. He's not. There's a big difference. And with that, we come to my favorite part of the show, my favorite part of football season, and that is picking winners, hopefully. The Pittsburgh Steelers host the San Francisco 49ers, 1 p.m. kickoff. Nick Bosa will be there. George Kittle is a big question mark as of right now, but the expectation is that he is going to play. Brock Purdy, obviously. Kyle Shanahan, obviously. It is a lot of the same San Francisco that took them to the NFC Championship last year, but also a lot different. It is a completely different Pittsburgh Steelers team, it feels like, from top to bottom. Still, the 49ers are 2.5-point favorites on the road at Acrisure Stadium in week 1 against Kenny Pickett and company, who were perfect in the preseason, but none of that matters come kickoff on Sunday. 2.5-point dogs. Who you taking on the win here?
I'm taking the Steelers outright.
I
do. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think any line under 3, that's don't touch that. Like, that's just bet the money line. What are we doing? But yeah, I think the Steelers walk away with a win, a tight one. I think they win by more than 3. I think they're 4-point. I think it's like a 27-23 type of deal.
Okay.
I think they stand up enough. I think the defense in particular stands up enough in the red zone in particular to keep 49ers out of the end zone. I think they hold them to 3 points a couple more times than San Francisco would like. They get 1 or 2 big plays on offense. That's all they need. And the defense comes up with a turnover, like we talked about, and that's the ball game right there. And San Francisco might have a chance real late with the ball to maybe win the game, but they don't come through.
I like it. I'm also going Steelers straight up. I think that they pull this one off. I think that, just like you said, it is more than a 3-point game. The confidence is high in Pittsburgh right now, and it's more than Kenny Pickett. It's a lot of the defense. It's a lot of the playmakers. It's a lot of the Steelers on paper are a really good team. They don't have many holes right now. And San Francisco is a team that, we talked about it on Wednesday, there's a lot of drama coming into this game for this team. And I just don't know how that's going to hold up. And I don't know if that gives you a disadvantage on Sunday, but I'd like to think that it does. I'm going Pittsburgh Steelers. I like the 4 points. I'm going 24. 24-20 almost never happens, but I'll go 24-20. It'll be roughly 24-20. I feel good about that one. I don't think it's like overly high scoring just because the defenses on both sides are so good, but I expect the Steelers to control this game for most of it, and I expect Kenny Pickett to do what needs to be done to win, and I expect Matt Canada to win some people over in this one. What do you do if the first play the Pittsburgh Steelers run on offense is a jet sweep and the second one is a screen pass to Darnell Washington?
I'd laugh my ass off. Because then the next one is just, the next drive is going to be like, he's just going to mess with you for a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of think Matt Canada's a little funny. I like Matt Canada now. I'm not think he's a great offensive coordinator, but I think he knows what he's doing every time he talks to the media or something like that. He knows what the vibe is like around this team, and I think he's having a little bit of fun with it. So I'm a bit of a Matt Canada guy in that way.
I don't know if you're going to get some love or some hate for that one, but I agree with you on that one. I do think he would do it just to. I think him and Mike Tomlin would sit there and just look at each other and smile and just be like,
okay. Next drive we'll start playing.
Yeah. All right, next play here. This is a real one now. This is a real one now. But yeah, it would be a good one. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and find us anywhere you get your podcast. Football is officially back. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, the North Shore is going to be bumping on Sunday. I cannot wait. If you see me walking through the tailgates beforehand, I always week 1, I always park downtown and make my way through everybody and all the crowds to make sure that I just see and experience and kind of get a feel of how Steelers Nation is going to be on that home opener, and I know it's going to be a good one. So if you see me walking around, make sure you stop me, say what's good. Love to see everybody out there. Enjoy the game if you're watching it from home. Enjoy some nice beers. Enjoy some nice food. Enjoy Pittsburgh Steelers win. Hopefully. Find all our work throughout the weekend at allsteelers.com, and as always, our pick coverage at InsideThePanthers.com.